Let's see if it works this time. Let's see if it works this time. Okay, so we're live now.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is the Free American Press with your host, Alexander Horat. And today we're having a great guest on the show, and that is Patrick Holland. And we're going to be talking about how to prioritize your state before federal politics first. But before we begin, if you could please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video, that would be great. Hello, Patrick. We're really happy to have you on the show.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me back.
Yeah. So can you tell the viewers a little bit how they can prioritize their state over federal politics?
Well, first of all, there's a mindset. There's a lot more drama going on in federal politics in some people's minds as opposed to state politics. I assure you, there's just as much, if not more, drama in your state. If you pay attention and actually watch and participate, you will see it. It's huge. So trust me, it's not like and once again, when I talk about this kind of stuff, and I'll talk about the stuff that our group, the Missouri Freedom Initiative, has done and what we're doing in the future. Um, but just so you understand, our group, our organization, the Missouri Freedom Initiative, is not a standard organization. We do not take donations. We have no money in our group. We are just, grassroots activists that are Missouri citizens. There's no money involved in what we do, none. So understand from the point of view, some people think when you go up to the Capitol and you're dealing with politicians, you're lobbying. Well, there's a difference between lobbying and being a lobbyist. so, so I am just a computer technician. That's what I am, and I basically I do computers, I do servers, I set up networks, I design networks, and I set up security systems for both doors and for cameras and that sort of thing. That's what I do for a living. I'm self-employed.
Yeah,
In my
that's.
spare time, go ahead.
Oh, I just was gonna say that's really great that the Missouri Freedom Initiative doesn't take donations because I think money can definitely be a corrupting factor in a grassroots movement.
Absolutely. I've seen entire grassroots organizations get completely and totally corrupted with as little as, something like ten to $20,000.
Yeah.
So I've seen it happen before. So our group is not like that. We've been offered money. There's no doubt about it. I want to let you guys know we've been offered money. We've said no. We've been offered, corporate backing. We've said no. No, thank you. Thank you very much for thinking of us, but no, thank you. But the fact is, we don't have a bank account. We don't have a 501c3. We don't register, our name is not even registered. We just pick three words, Missouri Freedom Initiative. And we're a very big group, by the way. And we're maintained by an email list. So that's how we keep everything together. We keep the communications going. We do live streams on Saturday nights generally. And then we write legislation, and we also support other people's legislation, good legislation. And it's all in Missouri. We do not focus on Washington, D.C. So, because we understand the concept of what's going on here. If you want to drain the swamp, start with your state. That's where you need to drain, is in your state. So, the more states that get rid of the corruption within their states, the faster we can actually approach, the problem solving of healing our federal government that is rife with corruption, just absolutely rife with it. It's everywhere. And it's not just the elected officials, it's the unelected bureaucrats that stay, in the State Department for 40, 50 years. These people are compromised. So, and these people are the ones telling the politicians what to do. So, keep in mind there's also money masters at the top that are pulling puppet strings. So, your state has the same problem, but no one's addressing this in their states because they're too busy watching all the drama in DC and, getting on social media and giving their opinion on what's going on in DC and what people should do about it, but no one ever does anything. There's
Yeah.
lots of reasons for it. Go ahead.
I just want to make a quick comment. I think you're right. The federal government's huge. The United States is one of the biggest, most populated countries in the world, and we actually lack representation. Like each congressman represents over 1 million people,
Mhm.
so it makes it hard for us, for our voices to be heard to our congressmen and to our senators. So I really think smaller states like Missouri, Wyoming, Idaho, with smaller populations, are far less corrupt because their representation to their actual population is much more. Like here in California, it takes millions of people for a state senator and for a state assemblyman
Sure.
for representation. So we get very little representation for the amount of population there is. And that's causing problems. Like California is bigger than a lot of countries. It's
Hmm.
actually one of the largest economies in the world. So since that lack of representation, that really creates a huge hurdle. So I really think it's great that you're focusing on the state first rather than the federal government, which is a huge Goliath, then so I think it's really easiest to do that.
It's not just easier, which it is, but actually it's a better way to get involved in politics is getting on the local level. Because actually sending a goldfish into that shark tank called Washington D.C. Basically is not a really good idea. People think, oh, geez, Mr. Something goes to Washington, whatever that was.
Oh, Mr. Smith goes to
Mr. Smith. Okay. That's this one nice guy can actually go there and have enough influence to change things in Washington, D.C. That model doesn't work. It never has. In fact, I think that movie was created as propaganda
yeah.
that, basically have hope because at some point during an election cycle, you'll get that one good guy in that's going to change everything and make everything all right. It doesn't work, folks. Um, so, and I'm going to get into the state politics and versus federal politics. I'll get into that in a little bit here. But I think from my point of view, it's really important for people to understand several aspects of what's going on here. Is that basically government is not your friend. It never has been your friend. It never will be your friend. They're interested in taking your freedoms, and so basically, with the more laws that are created, it doesn't matter if it's on the federal or state level. There is a transfer of power when those laws are created away from the people and to the government generally. Sometimes the laws are written that the power is taken away from the people and given to corporations. That's called corporatism, mercantilism. Fascism is the old fashioned word, but they've changed the definition. But so there's a lot of names for that, and it's bad as well. But also, when you keep growing your government, then you're running into the right left paradigm, the structure. If you draw a line, a straight line on a piece of paper, and if you have, all the way to the right is anarchy, all the way to the left is totalitarianism. And basically, as you move from right to left, you can get into, constitutional conservatives and libertarians and, you know, um, and before you even get to Republicans, but Republicans are left of center. They're less than moderate. So they're not even in the center because Republicans have allowed the government to grow larger. So the Republicans weren't supposed to do that. They were supposed to keep that power in check, that the people had the power, not the government. So we have a problem with the uniparty, basically with a lot of people. For instance, one of the biggest problems with the GOP today, and by the way, if people want to ask what my politics are, I call myself a constitutional conservative. I'm not a Republican, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm further right on the paradigm than the Republicans. The Republicans are far too left for me. So, and I know that's a strange statement to make, but watch Washington, D.C. They never, ever shrink the size of government. They never cut spending. This is what the GOP is supposed to do. This is their party platform. And they don't do it anymore. This is long gone. So the spending is out of control. It doesn't matter who's in office. And that's having to do with the Keynesian economic cycle. That's why everyone should have gold and silver legal tender in their state. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, from my point of view, if you're going to get involved in politics and right the ship, believe it or not, you have to stop looking at the big picture and start looking at all the little pictures that make up the big picture. and that's local and state government in your state. Sorry about Bruce here, the cameo dog. Um, so that's what we do in the Missouri Freedom Initiative, and we're very blessed in the state of Missouri. It's not just the Missouri Freedom Initiative. There's tons of grassroots organizations in Missouri. We're very loud. We're very seen. And I have talked to representatives and senators, state representatives and senators in other states, and explained to them what the environment is in the Missouri Capitol for grassroots. And almost without exception, they all say, we never see that in our capital. So Missouri's different for whatever reason. The show me state is somewhat different. There's a lot of citizens involved with government. And this is what keeps the balance of power and checks and balances in place. But you need a lot of people because there's a lot of legislation. We file 3,000 plus bills a year between the Senate and the House in the state of Missouri. That's a lot of legislation. And there's a lot of crap hidden within a lot of those bills, Alex.
Yeah.
Corporatism, like you wouldn't believe. We shut them down. We shut these bills down. This is the most important thing that a grassroots activist can do, is make sure that the bad bills never become laws. That is the first and most important thing you need to do. And then getting good stuff passed is right after that. So, but shut the bad stuff down. This is the problem we have in DC. Now, I'm going to say one thing. Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House in Washington, D.C., promised, absolutely promised, a clean CR, a continuing resolution for appropriations. Now, this was done a week ago. They opened the government a little over a week ago. They opened up the government again, and, everyone's happy, but it wasn't a clean CR. They literally are demonizing hemp. So they slipped something in, and this was McConnell, slipped something in to basically demonize or regulate, or in other words, make hemp illegal.
Wow.
And so hemp, and once again, this is very interesting stuff, because actually, I'm not looking at it. People say, "Oh, hemp, that's drugs, that's marijuana." No, it's not. It's different. But I understand the THC stuff. I get this, but remember, we've talked gold and silver many times, Alex, over the years. I've known you since 2018, maybe. And we've talked a lot of gold and silver over the years, but we've also talked about the other useful commodities on this planet. The first is oil. There is nothing more useful than oil, because hydrocarbons are very easy to turn into other products. So, and that's just a basic fact in its physics, right? Chemistry, sorry. Number two is silver. Silver is the second most useful commodity on the planet. Do you know what number three is?
Gold.
Hemp.
Oh.
It's a very useful commodity. You can make pharmaceuticals with it. You can make clothing with it. You can do so much with hemp. It's a very, very useful product, but it threatens certain people, certain industries, paper industry, for instance, because, if you're not making paper out of wood pulp, you can make it out of hemp, and you can actually do it significantly cheaper with hemp.
Yeah.
But that threatens the paper industry, and basically they get upset. Pharmaceuticals. You can actually base a lot of pharmaceuticals on hemp. And of course, that threatens the pharmaceutical companies. They're a very big lobbying group in DC, by the way. Biodiesel. Well, that threatens the corn industry, and that's heavily subsidized by the federal government. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Mike Johnson lied to the American people. We did not get a clean CR. Yet Republicans are okay with it because it was hemp, and that's drugs. That's marijuana. No, it's not. It's so much more than that. So even the Republicans are lying to the people, bold-faced lying on camera in front of microphones. We were promised a clean CR. That's all he said he would let through. That's it. That's not what we got, folks. So basically, that's just an example. I mean, you can't win with either party. If something's going to go wrong, it doesn't matter. The corruption's just everywhere. So, and I'm not saying that there was more than that in the bill, but I'm saying that that was enough. That was really enough. The states are going to have to come together and fix this problem. So, in fact, we're working on that in the state of Missouri right now. We have Ethan Thampy. Basically, he is a lobbyist for the hemp industry, looking for ways that Missouri can solve the problem for the state of Missouri using the 10th Amendment, anti-commandeering doctrine. So, this is how sanctuary states get done. This is how legalization of marijuana happens in states, because the federal government still says marijuana is a drug, a class A or class 1 or whatever they call it. And I'm not stumping for marijuana. I don't. I never have. I am neutral on marijuana, but I am pro hemp, because basically I have a dream that Missouri is going to become energy independent, basically with biodiesel. And so at some point in time, we can do that with hemp, because you can use a lot more of the plant from hemp to make biodiesel than you can with corn. So at any rate, okay, now that we got all this stuff out of the way, this is just another example of how the federal government kind of screwed over the American people, screwed over a lot of industries, and basically, and then basically, it's really not talked about anymore. But we were lied to. So another thing, tariffs with Trump. A lot of people think, when Trump was talking tariffs, I got excited. I thought that was a very good idea, because the tariffs needed to be put in place in 2000. Pat Buchanan was running for president in 2000 and 2004, and he was running, and by the way, a Republican, and he was running on something called equal trade, if anyone remembers that. And what he meant was we match tariffs. So if China wants to charge 3% for American goods, we charge 3% for Chinese goods. It's just equal trade.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he referred to it as, equal trade. I'm almost positive that's what he called it. When Trump said, he was going to start this trade war, he said the same thing. He said, if China's going to charge us this, we're going to charge them the same thing over here. And then he also says, this is how we're getting rid of income tax. Now we got trade stuff all over the place. I mean, was it 150% tariff on Chinese goods now coming into America?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, he's bringing in all kinds of money with these tariffs. The American people are paying it. And instead of getting rid of income tax like he said he would do, he's talking about cutting checks, rebate checks.
You're
Of
right.
course,
Right.
of course, during an election year. So he's promised one thing. He promised equal trade, and then he promised elimination of income tax, to do the tariff wars. And by the way, tariff wars are a very precariously dangerous thing to do. So this is not for the weak, because actually tariff wars usually lead to currency wars, and currency wars lead to actual wars. So, I understand that we had a tariff imbalance and everything. Trump was right when he was talking about that. There was a problem, and it's been going on a long time, folks. This is way before Trump got in. And even in 2000, Pat Buchanan was talking about this burgeoning trade problem we had. And he says, we need to fix it now and not later. And of course, that's 25 years ago. And the crazy way it's being handled right now is kind of interesting. But keep in mind, we were promised that if Trump was doing these trade tariff wars, that basically how we would benefit is federal income tax would go away. And there's been no more talk about that whatsoever. But he is talking about cutting rebate checks to everybody.
That's universal basic income.
Pretty much. And so, I mean, he's charging us, the American taxpayers, more money for products, basically with his tariff wars. And then, of course, we're, basically going and, getting rebate checks, some of our money back. And this is just insane. This is not a good way to run government. And by the way, other reasonably, intelligent people can disagree and say we have to go through this phase to get to the next phase. And maybe that's true. But I'm just saying this is not why it was started. And so it matters. Basically, when people say they're going to do something, in politics, they should probably try to finish that up. Otherwise, you're going to lose credibility, right?
Yeah.
So who lost credibility? I gave you two scenarios. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Republican. Donald Trump, President of the United States, Republican. Both broke their word. Both of them with the American people. And people should be upset with that. And instead of continuing to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple down by getting on social media and saying how angry they are, I suggest people take that anger and that rage and start getting rid of corruption within your local governments all the way up to your state government. And it can be done. Now, the more people, the better, obviously for these kinds of operations. But we have the same exact problem in our states. And people don't even know it because they're not paying attention to what's going on. Generally, most people do not pay attention to state politics.
Yeah,
So
that's true. They hardly are even aware of state politics.
that's right. And by the way, you let politicians, fester in the dark, bad things happen, man. You need to keep a good eye on these politicians. Always. Even if you think they're good. So here's my stump speech, before we get into, other things, legislation. And my stump speech is very simple. It is we as American citizens vote for our politicians, people that go into office to represent us and to do things for us in Washington, D.C., or in your state government, or even in your local county, right? Or even in your city. But election is just the beginning. You have to hold their feet to the fire. You have to watch them. You have to keep in communication with them. That's pivotal. Pivotal. Stay in communication with your rep and your senator. Don't let that go for years and years. You don't even meet them. You don't talk to them. Don't do that. Keep in regular contact with them. And if there's enough people keeping regular contact with them, they'll know there's a lot of eyes on them, and they'll be less likely to do something corrupt. And I've seen good people go into office and become corrupt. I've seen that many, many times, Alex. I'm sure you have too.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think knowing your state senator and state representative is a great way. Here in California, they represent so many people, it's kind of hard even to talk to them in person. But I think in Missouri, it's definitely a lot easier too.
well, it's a lot easier because actually I've gone to a few other capitals before, and Missouri, like Arkansas and, some other states are very, very easy access. You get inside the Capitol building, you go through security, and boom, you have access to every single office. You can knock on any door. Most doors in Missouri, for representatives and senators, are always wide open. You just walk right in and then meet with, the legislative assistant or with chief of staff or a policy director, and set up a meeting with a senator or a representative, later that day.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. It's really that easy in Missouri. So it's really cool the way it's set up here. And so I appreciate the simplicity of it. And so, we take advantage of that in the Missouri Freedom Initiative. So do the other grassroots across Missouri. So do the lobbyists, folks. The lobbyists take advantage of that too. So it's not just us. So the thing is the Missouri citizens now outweigh the lobbyists running around our capital. But for all the other states' legislators I've been talking to, it's the exact opposite. They have a lot more lobbyists than they have citizens. That's where things get, interesting, and things can fester. So don't let your state government, your county government, or your city government operate in the dark. Make sure that they're in the light. Make sure that you're talking to them. Make sure you keep the communication flowing. Make sure you talk to them about your concerns. I'll be honest with you. I don't even know. In the city that I'm nearest to is Clever, and I'm in the school district. I don't know anyone in the city of Clever, in city offices, elected officials. I don't know anyone there. But I do know county people, and I do know the state people. So at any rate, if people ask, what have you done on the city level before? Well, I mean, we've school bond issues. I mean, I've worked with that before, and that's about it. Everything else has been on the state level that I've worked on, and beyond.
Yeah.
So, and Alex, you're very familiar with a lot of things that I've done, at least since I've met you. I'm a big pro-life guy. I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I'm a big silver and gold guy. I'm a big property rights guy. So, I mean, I'm a constitutional conservative. So convincing people in the Republican Party to go with me on some of the things that I see is relatively easy in most cases. In some cases, it's really difficult. So I have a difficult time convincing Democrats, basically on the things that I believe in, but they're much, much further to the left, obviously. So, and I'm not dissing any party. They have reasons for believing what they do, but the guy with the best argument should win every time. So let's start talking about that a little bit by going into legislation. So I am just a computer guy. We covered that at the beginning of this.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. But I also write legislation. And I talked about this on my last live stream Saturday night at the Missouri Freedom Initiative. You can go find it on YouTube or Rumble or anywhere else you want to go. I talked about how an average person in a state can actually get legislation filed in the state for consideration through the legislature. And it's really simple. Let me say what it is. Do I write all that legalese? No, I don't understand it. I write a very complex outline on what I want to accomplish with a bill. And then, if need be, like in the case of silver and gold, I've had to write narratives, basically to explain the outline a little bit better because you don't want to put explanations in your outline. These are single point sentences, basically for a structured outline. So if you know how to write an outline, you can write a bill. How does it get converted into a bill? Very simple. In Missouri, and I've talked to other people in other states, it's the same way. In Missouri, the Senate has what we call Senate research, and House has what we call House research. So basically, when you pick your bill sponsor, who you want to be the bill runner. So you pick a politician based on a lot of different factors that you want to be the sponsor of your bill. And as soon as they agree to be the sponsor of your bill, hand them the outline. And then that sponsor will take it downstairs to Senate or House research, and they'll have an attorney convert your idea with your very, very structured idea. It's very important that you get it right, but they'll convert it into legalese for you. And so it's literally that simple. So let's demystify this. Basically it's, I can't understand these bills. I wouldn't write this in a million. I can't either, folks, but I've written lots of bills. Some of them have actually passed, but I didn't do legalese, and frankly, I understand it, but I just don't understand it enough to write it. And also it's very important, basically the placement of any semicolon or comma in legalese. It means something. It's not just breaking up a sentence. It actually means something. So, but that's why you need an attorney, basically working for the House or Senate to actually do it. And this is all done for free. There is no charge to get this done, by the way. And before long, you have a bill. And when it gets pre-filed, you have a bill number. So this is not the end of your journey. This was just the very beginning. And we're going to talk about specific legislation in a second. I'm almost done with this part, Alex. So what you have now is you have a bill that's pre-filed. And now your goal is to make the bill popular. And so there's lots of different ways of doing this. And maybe we should focus on this on another show, Alex. How do you make a state piece of legislation that you've written popular? I can tell you how I've done it before in the past. And I've taken it to means and doing it in ways that no one else really ever thought of before. But it's because it was incredibly time consuming to make the bills popular. And no one wants to give their time for free like I was doing to make my bills popular. So this is why no one else does this sort of thing. So if you want to make a bill popular in the state, it's actually really easy to do. You just have to spend the time. So it's not just writing the bill or writing an outline, converting it into a bill, having it pre-filed by your sponsor, the representative or senator you gave the bill to. Now you have your part to do. They have to work the bill on the inside, but you have to work the bill on the outside. So what I did to make my bills popular is I started touring the state and visiting Republican Central Committee meetings. I would make sure I'd get invited to speak. And so I would literally, I'd hit like 2 or 3 of those a month all over the state. So I'm driving all over the state. Of course, there's no money in this. So this is my time, my dime, my gasoline, my wear and tear on my vehicle. But I want my bill through. And I didn't do it for money. I did it to actually get something good done for the people of Missouri, something that will affect every soul in Missouri. And so getting legislation across that doesn't benefit the government, doesn't benefit a corporation, only benefits the people. These bills are rare, Alex.
I agree.
Rare.
As
These
rare
are
as
unicorns.
yeah.
But that's the kind of bills I file. So At any rate, so you run around, you do that, you make appearances everywhere you're invited, pachydermy clubs, basically, which are, slightly more conservative than GOP related, Republican Party, platforms. And then basically I'm a prepper and a homesteader. So prepper and homesteader meetings, I go hit those, talk about the legislation. And it's not just so that they understand the legislation. Going to those Republican Central Committee meetings has a lot of purposes because these people actually have access to and influence with the representative and the senator within their districts. We're talking state here, people. We're not talking federal here. So throw the federal out of your mind here for this conversation. We're talking about getting state legislation done. So basically, I just run around and hit those Republican Central Committee meetings, and then they love the idea. And suddenly now we've got like 50 people in that district putting pressure, direct pressure, on the senator and representative to vote yes on that bill.
Yeah.
So and these are people that have influence with that politician. They're not in my district. I don't have influence, but they do. And I've convinced them that this bill is going to be very good for the state of Missouri, and it doesn't benefit the government. It doesn't benefit corporations. It is only for the people, and they love it. I mean, they're like, wow, this is cool. So, so the pressure's on. And
Yeah.
so at any rate, and then when you hit other places like prepper or homesteader meetings, which I hit as well, basically, these are people just making emails and phone calls and sometimes joining us up in Jefferson City for Knock and Shock to help make the bill popular in the Capitol, putting pressure on them in real time, looking them in the eyes, and literally saying what they want, what they like about the bill and how they want them to vote. And so that's another beautiful part of it. This is how you make a bill popular. And then
Yeah.
once the bill is popular, you have to make sure that leadership is going to let it through. So you got to start scheduling. So there's a lot of work involved. I'm not getting paid, and I put in the time. I talk to everyone I need to talk to. I have meetings whenever there's a problem, or a concern or something that needs to be addressed. Sometimes it's a word change or something like that in the legislation. I constantly work with the sponsors of the bills. I have private meetings with them. I get intel from them. I give them intel that I receive. So we're sharing information about trouble spots, basically areas that need attention. Like, for instance, I might hear from a senator, hey, listen, the floor leader of the Senate is not really crazy on the bill. He needs a visit. He needs to be talked to. He needs to be explained about this bill, basically. And I wouldn't have known that if the sponsor hadn't told me. So that's what I'm talking about, passing intel back and forth. And if I'm having a problem with the central committee, basically I can go to the representative or senator that's in that district where that central committee is, basically, and I can go talk to them. And, so like I said, the passing of information is incredibly important in your state capital. But do you have information to pass on? And is it credible information? Don't give them bad information. Handing credible, good information to a politician is a way that you build something called political capital. So once you get this bill done, they're going to remember you gave them a favor because you gave them information they didn't have before. And then you parlay that into a yes vote on your next project. That's political capital. This is the way it works. Guys, we don't deal in money. We don't. So I meant political capital is all we have to work with. So information is power. So that's a way you can, basically get politicians on your side and voting yes with you, is by helping them, by making sure they have information they didn't have before. And of course, respect the fact that when they give you information you didn't have before, remember that and respect that as well. And so this is how you get things done in a state, at least from my experience. We don't have money to throw around at politicians to get bills passed. We don't have $150,000, to place, in the speaker, House Speaker's campaign funds, and the floor leader in the House, and the pro tem in the Senate. We just don't have money for that. So we do it the old-fashioned way. And this is what we've done in our state, and hopefully we've inspired a lot of others. When we first started doing this back in 2019, there was only two of us going up to the Capitol at the time. And we've had 35, 40, 50 people join us for knock and shock operations now. And so basically people from all over the state are coming to join us on missions for legislation that they care about. Okay, do you have any questions on that before we get into actual bills?
No, I think it's just great how you were able to implement that and get that gold and silver bill passed, the Constitutional Money Act.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a good step.
Yep, that was. And this is literally the most permissive gold and silver bill the world has ever seen before. So it doesn't matter what state. I mean, we beat all states on permissive, use of gold and silver as legal tender. We've surpassed even what Utah has done. We've surpassed what the United Arab Emirates have done because they do use gold and silver as money in the Emirates. We've surpassed all of it right here in Missouri. And so we did get that was legislation that I was the architect for, and basically there's quite a few people credited for helping to write it. The original outline was written by me. I took ideas from other states. I had plenty of time to write the legislation and come up with a really, really good bill. There were several changes over the years because we were blocked by one man for 2 years, and that was the House Speaker, Dean Plocker. And he termed out and he was quite unpopular. He was unable to get elected to Secretary of State, so he's politically pretty much done here in the state. But once he was gone, the next year, which is 2025, this year, it went right through.
That's great.
So yes, we did have one problem, and I don't want to really talk. We've talked about that ad nauseum and everything. So there was a lot of people involved in and exposing a lot of corrupt activity that the House Speaker was involved in. So he had corruption charges chasing him for the last 2 years. He was in office anyway, and he was even investigated by the FBI. And so there was a lot of stuff going on there, and he just wasn't giving up anything to anyone unless he got what he wanted in return. And he was using silver and gold as leverage against the Missouri Senate. He was trying to get them to pass a bunch of corporatist bills for them to be able to get silver and gold passed. And so the sponsor I had at the time, Senator Bill Eigel, he doesn't play ball like that. So I mean, we've had meetings and everything. We accepted the fact silver and gold wasn't going to go through this year because he's not going to let corporatist laws go through, in order to exchange that for the joy of having the silver and gold bill. So this is the kind of stuff you deal with too. There are disappointments. You have to be patient. And sometimes you have a lot of problems that take a couple of years to work out. Thank God for term limits in Missouri, because without term limits, we'd be in trouble here. Um, at any rate, yeah, the silver and gold bill is near and dear to my heart. You bet. And also, a lot of states have called me up and have asked for help writing bills, and I'm doing that. And so, silver and gold legal tender bills. So some people across the country kind of consider me an expert in that arena. I'm not an expert in anything, but I do specialize in writing legislation for gold and silver. Yes. Our next project that we're working on, which is something we talked about a little bit in our last video,
Yeah.
and we've taken a pretty big change on this, and this has just happened today. And I don't think we're going to be able to accomplish what we wanted to in 2026. So we're going to change our strategy a little bit, and I'm writing a very simple bill right now that's just going to make it illegal to confiscate any property in the state of Missouri if someone's in arrears on their property taxes. No more. No more. No more taking away people's homes because they're 2 or 3 years late on their property taxes. That's going to stop. So in the bill, basically, we'll make sure that the county can put a lien on the house, and for the debt, but they cannot sell the debt. They cannot charge interest or penalties on that debt. And that debt can continue to accumulate, and they cannot take away their home. So that's the bill I'm going to be writing. But in 2027, I'll have something much more exciting.
So
And I just need more time, which I didn't have this year to really do what I originally talked to you about, what I called Plan A. We're actually on Plan C now because Plan B kind of fell apart too, logistical and technical reasons.
so would they not be able to sell the house if they have debt on it?
Well, they can, But of
Oh,
course, basically, whatever is owed to the government in back taxes would automatically be taken off the sale and given to the government. But you can still sell. Absolutely. So
okay.
we can't go the full blown route like Florida is talking about doing right now, because I literally did not have the time to research how to place taxes from property all over the state. You can't put it all on sales tax. It's too big a number. Your sales tax goes up dramatically. And if you do that, then basically people are going to start shopping in the adjacent states, basically to try and save money. So, you have to be very, very judicious on how you actually take the taxes off of property and place it on other items in your state. Everything from sin tax to sales tax. And we're also competing with the governor of Missouri next year, who is hell bent on getting rid of income tax in the state of Missouri. But I would prefer income tax stay for now, because we have among the very lowest income tax, in the entire United States of America. I believe it's 4%.
Yeah, I definitely prefer an income tax than a property tax.
Yep, me too. And this is what I have yet to have meetings with people up in Jefferson City and talk about this, but this is actually a really important thing that needs to be discussed. Is, basically, why is it we're just going right to income and we're not even talking about property tax? And I've had my standard stump speech about the Free State Project, and it's made me some people that are angry with me. Basically talking about how the Free State Project has failed. It's stalled. It can't go any further. And I don't go into big detail on that, but I'll do a quick 45-second synopsis. So a bunch of people, liberty-minded people, move to New Hampshire, get elected, and the first thing they do is they get rid of income tax. And that's cool. I meant everyone's, oh, cool. That's way cool. Thank you. Then they get rid of sales tax. And everyone thinks, oh, geez, that is so cool. They're obviously cutting spending, right? No, they put it all on property tax. Now they have the second highest property tax in the United States of America.
Mm.
That's not freedom. The Free State Project ran into a problem. When they cut income tax and sales tax, a lot of socialists from Massachusetts and New York moved into New Hampshire to take advantage of the low taxes. But they got elected positions too. And now it's basically the Free State Project against the Granite State Project in their own legislature. And they can't seem to get anything else done for freedom in New Hampshire. Not anything realistic anyway. They're pretty stuck now. And they have extremely high property tax, because that's how they run their government, is with property taxes.
Wow.
So that's a pretty serious problem that New Hampshire has developed, but a very valuable lesson that we all need to learn too. Because how is it that a bunch of libertarians that put property rights on the first thing on their platform allowed this to happen in their state? How did that happen? I can't get an answer. I have talked to Eric Brakey, and unfortunately, that conversation didn't go well. I was in New Hampshire at the time. And Eric Brakey, by the way, is the director of the Free State Project. And Jeremy before him, Jeremy and I did not get along too well. But Eric will talk to me, so I'll give him credit for that. But the conversation I had about their property taxes being as high as they are, he actually kind of wore that as a badge of honor. I said, what kind of a libertarian are you? Libertarians believe in property rights. You don't have property rights anymore. Stop paying your property taxes. Find out what happens.
Yeah.
So basically what they've done is they've made their state a really cool state to go and purchase stuff, because you have no sales tax. You want to buy that $1,500 iPhone and you live in, Vermont or Maine or New York or Massachusetts, you just drive right into New Hampshire, pick up that phone, and there's no sales tax on it,
Yeah, that's
as
true.
opposed to buying it in your own state. So what they did is they increased, basically sales. They increased productivity of moving product. But the people, unfortunately, are now locked into these horribly high property taxes. And if they stop taking them or stop paying them, the government will take them away. What we're going to do, go ahead.
I was just wanting to ask, so is there like in the best case scenario, if we could do this right eventually, is there a way where the government could get rid of property tax, sales tax, and income tax, all of them, or is that impossible?
It depends. There are ways to do it because you can still have taxes on certain things, like sin tax and things of that nature. So you can always have, some kind of income coming from that. But replacing sales tax and income tax and property tax with something else is precariously difficult.
Mm.
So, Florida is about to get rid of property tax. I feel it in my bones. They're not going to get a allodial title or private property rights out of it, but they will get rid of their property taxes. And they're doing it because a governor is ordering basically his General Assembly, his legislature, to hand him the legislation to literally eliminate property tax in the state of Florida. We don't have that in Missouri. Our governor is hell bent on getting rid of income tax. So our governor is, uh, I hate to say this, basically on a live stream, but there's a lot of cattle industry involved in this. There's a lot of business involved in this. And they seem to think that if you get rid of income tax, it'll bring businesses to Missouri. I suggest getting rid of property tax because income tax is just so dang low here. It's just not offensive. It's not hard. It's not difficult. Property taxes, much more so. And when you get into personal property tax, I'm sorry, property tax is real estate tax, folks, if you're in another state. In Missouri, we often refer to it as property. My house is property. My car is personal property. So my boat is personal property. My trailer, my camper are personal property. But only structures and land, like a house on a piece of ground, that's property tax. So in many states, you differentiate the two by saying real estate taxes um, versus personal property taxes. Some states don't have personal property taxes on cars. We have that here in Missouri.
Oh, you
So
have
that's,
tax on cars?
we do. And we pay it every year.
In California, you have to pay registration fees, so I guess that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and the registration. When I moved to California in 1992, 1991, I had a 1984 Ford Tempo.
Yeah,
And to register it in the state, and this is back, by the way, and it wasn't a nice car or anything, it was my car, but it wasn't, ultra nice. It wasn't expensive. And gosh darn it, that was back when you could buy cars for, like under $10,000 brand new.
yeah.
But I will tell you, I remember it being $400 to register my car in the state of California, and that was in 1991.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really expensive, especially if you have a new car, how much you have to pay, especially on trucks every month and everything.
Yep,
But getting back to property tax, I think it's great to get rid of it because that's the only way you can truly be free. If someone has like a homestead with some acres, they can live off the land completely and not be reliant on the government at all and
that's right.
just be free without having to make any money at all. They could just live off their land. So I think that's kind of what the founders intended us to be living off the land. There's still a lot of land that's not being used right now for homesteads that could be used.
Yeah, and no, that's absolutely true. But the fact of the matter is, for we're in a period of inflation that's not going away. Okay. So inflation is here to stay, folks, and it's not going to be good. It's going to get pretty ugly because we're at the end of the Keynesian economic system. The dollar is dying. And
Yeah.
so basically, they're going to print more of them, basically, because we have too much money out there and interest payments have to be made on that money. So this is just a mathematical certainty. They're going to continue printing. Well, the thing is everything's going to get more expensive, including your property taxes. So basically, every state needs to be looking into how to address this. Now, with this is a short-term fix, I'm suggesting I'm going to file legislation for because I literally lack the time for a proper plan A. Exactly what Florida is doing right now. They have resources to deal with this stuff. I don't. I mean, when I was first talking to the Missouri Freedom Initiative about doing this, I was suggesting it would take, I was guessing about 600 hours of research just to be able to write the proper bill. So
So
that's how much time. Go ahead.
I did just think of a quick question. So with your bill, you said the debt just keeps piling up and up. until the person pays it or until they sell the property.
Mhm.
But my question is, do they can they take the money out of your paycheck, the county, if you have the debt? Like, can they start taking your money that way?
Nope.
Okay, that's really important. So that's
Yep,
really
that's just a lien on the house. No interest on that lien, no fees, no other, strange, figures going into it. It's literally just the taxes. The county carries the debt and they can't sell it. So they can't sell it to a bank or sell it to someone else. And they just carry it, and they absolutely cannot take you off your property because of that.
mm,
That's the bill we're going to be filing. So people on because it's already happening, Alex. I mean, we're too late for some people. I know people that are on fixed incomes that literally could not afford to live in their homes anymore, and now they're renters, and it
yeah,
was because of their property tax.
exactly.
And so their house, basically was paid off, but their property taxes got to an untenable number for them because everything else has also gone up in price. Their groceries, their clothes, their medicines, everything that they use in life has gone up in price. And then now the taxes that you pay to continue living, where you live also go up as well. And there's got to be some give, and no one's giving in. And historically and typically, when you go through times of inflation, it's the state that actually lowers taxes during inflation. The federal government historically doesn't do that. So, in fact, historically, the federal government finds way to sneak in new taxes during times of inflation. This is how bad things are. And so you've got to get on your state for lowering taxes, or at the very least, what I'm doing. Once again, this is because I just don't have enough time to research the Plan A option like Florida is doing this year. I wanted Missouri to be one of those states, basically running it in 2026 for a lot of reasons. But I literally did not have the time to get the research done this year. There was just too
Yeah.
many things going on this year.
It does
Eh,
seem kind of odd that since we've been starting to talk about getting rid of property tax, it seems like there's been kind of a national push to get rid of it, especially in Florida. So that leads me to my next question. So, is there any countries or principalities that have no property tax?
No, property tax is in every state in the United States. Personal property tax, cars, trucks, that sort of thing, trailers. There are states that have no personal property tax, but property tax itself exists in all 50 states. If Florida gets it done in 2026, they'll be the very first state to actually eliminate property taxes in the United States.
Wow. So, is there any countries without property taxes?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I have no clue on that.
Sounds.
So, but we lived here in the United States, so basically, I'm not interested necessarily in other countries or competing with other countries. I'm interested in states competing with one another for freedom legislation, and that's why I bring up the Free State Project all the time. They did it backwards. They did it backwards. They should have gotten rid of property taxes first, and they didn't do it that way. Now they can't get rid of them, and they're sky high, and the price of homes are sky high out there along with the taxes, because the prices are high. It was a bad and by the way, I'm not saying that they did it that way on purpose, Alex. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that, but I am saying that even if it was just an honest mistake and they intended to go to property at some point, where were they going to move the taxes to at that point?
Yeah.
Basically, if you're not getting rid of your government, basically just literally getting rid of your government, you're going to have money to fund it.
Yeah.
And so, at any rate, that's where they went to is property taxes. And now I think the average, I can't remember now. I think it was like the average New Hampshire and property tax is $8,000 a year, I think, or something like that. And that's for just their home and their land.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really disgusting, in my opinion. So I'm going to share my screen to show the Missouri Freedom Initiative website. So Missouri School Board handout, and you can definitely join Patrick's email mailing list so you can stay informed when he's doing live streams and things like that. And I also want to show his YouTube channel, Missouri Freedom Initiative. So they do a live stream
Yeah,
on
click on live real quick, Alex.
they do
So
it.
that's our last video that we did 5 days ago, right? Yeah, the one you're showing right now.
Yeah.
That's where I was talking about how to turn an idea into a law. It doesn't cost any money. All you have to do is know how to write an outline and, talk to some people up at your capital so they will carry the bill from the outline.
Yeah, I think that's definitely great, and you have a lot of great videos. I'm subscribed to the channel, and he has 1,200 subscribers. We definitely need to grow that channel. Definitely more people need to see what's going on with the Missouri Freedom Initiative, and definitely join that live stream. And also, Patrick is quite popular on Twitter, so definitely follow him there, mofree.org. The Missouri Freedom Initiative is a grassroots organization dedicated to promoting liberty and freedom for all the people in Missouri. Tweets are not endorsements. So he has a lot of great posts here that you can definitely like and share, which would be really great. So and he's also on other platforms like Odyssey. Um, so he's on that as well. So you can watch his videos there as well. So I just wanted to share the screen to show all that information. Is there anything else, Patrick, that you'd like to add to this video?
I just want to say thank you because I'm the worst person in the world on self promotion. I just am. It's just my nature. I don't tell people, hey, here's our website. Hey, look at us on Twitter. Hey, join our live streams. So thank you very much for saying that, Alex. I do appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. And I really appreciate you, Patrick, taking the time to make this video with me and sharing all this great insight for all the people who are watching. And just like to definitely want you on the show again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me back, Alex. God bless you, man.
God bless you, and thank you all for watching the live stream. We're going to be ending it now. And please subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, and share this video with all your friends and family so we can get this out.